Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who. My anus is bleeding!
He can't sit down.
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Beta male.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. I tell you don't do it.
Oops.
We're under attack. It is an alien force, not of this world. It's not human intelligence.
Bullshit.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Bullshit.
It's not a salami sandwich.
Disappointed!
Repeat the line.
Disappointed!
How you like that, boy?
No.
Give me a break.
Stop it.
Fired.
Fired! Fired!
Bitch, move it along.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Stupid.
You idiot.
Nation. Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, and we got a great show for you today. It may even be great. We'll see. It may be great. It may be good. It may be middling. But you know what? We're gonna have fun regardless. So, all right. I've got a lot of different stories. Again, many of them fun, others disastrous, but we also have some good news. I know. Where, there are so many disastrous, terrible governors out there. One actually did something good. I know. Weird. So we're going to have fun with that. We're also going to talk about a journalist that decided to rile up the Trumpers to their face. Glorious. It is glorious. Marjorie Taylor Greene basically admits that she wants her staff to be stupid. Fun. We got big pharma price gouging, which is not surprising. We have Jesse Waters justifying cruelty towards the homeless. And is Joe Biden a dictator? Ooh. Oh. Interesting. No. Okay. Anyway. As I said, lots of fun, lots of hilarity, and also perhaps a
Peachtree dish.
There we go. That's the one. Okay. All right. Look, I'm, by the way, getting back to my normal streaming program over the last couple of days. I tried out something different, and I didn't quite like it as much. I'm going to keep it around for, panel shows, which I plan to do more of. In fact, July 7th, we've got Humanist Report coming on for the live show. So, by popular demand, I'm going to speak with Mike Figueredo. It's going to be a lot of fun, but that's, again, July 7th. Did I say June 7th? I meant July. And more to come. I'm asking more people. So we'll see what happens. All right. Peachtree dish filled with gazpacho.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho.
You got to remember,
police.
it's Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police. Oh, yes. All right. But hey, let's dive into the show because it's going to be fun. Leave it to the Brits.
President Trump, are you ready to go to jail? President Trump! President Trump!
You stupid bitch!
That was BBC journalist Sophie Alexander finding out just how conservatives view free speech. You know, they love free speech. The freest of the free speech. Ah, yes. Now, this happened at the Versailles restaurant in Miami, Florida, where Trump visited following his arraignments on 37 counts basically related to the improper handling of classified materials. 31 counts are related to the Espionage Act. So, yeah. Now, Trump was expected to be interviewed by social media influencer Miami-Dade County mayoral candidate Alex Ataloa on YouTube, according to the Miami Herald. Now, after this trolling, Alexander took to social media to announce that I was just thrown out of the Versailles Bakery in Miami for asking President Trump if he was ready to go to jail. A man, and you saw that on the video, screamed, "Stupid bitch," in my face, while others said I was a traitor. And again, you saw that absolutely happen on video. Hey, right wing, what's wrong? Do you not like her free speech? Do you not like difficult questions? I mean, a little bit of a difficult question, I guess. Not a very popular one. Now, here's the thing. Did she ask that question to get a rise out of people? I think so. And that's what makes it great and glorious. You know, she went in there, no fear, and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Hey, Trump, you ready to go to jail? Lock him up. But hey, look, is there a legit question? Is that a legit question? Well, look, he's facing 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act. That's kind of a big deal over these documents, many of which were national security related, including a purported plan to invade Iran. Yeah, so those are things the government takes very seriously. In fact, I do remember one former president taking it so seriously that he basically made the transport of classified materials without authorization a felony. Oh, who was that? Who was that? Oh, right, I know who it was. Donald Trump. Because of course, right? Jeez. It's good. Okay, but anyway.
Can't let that happen.
Moving on. So now Trump had signed legislation back in 2018 that extended Section 702 of the FISA Amendments Act, part of which included change to 18 U.S. Code 1924, increasing the penalty for unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents or material from 1 to 5 years. So, yes, that's removal and retention. Hey, that sounds kind of familiar to what he just did. Huh. According to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute, this upgrades the offense from a misdemeanor to a Class E felony. Now, that said, it's not necessarily the largest charge former President Donald Trump is facing, but let me just point out how it's super ironic. Only Trump can get busted and charged with his own law.
They say, that's amazing. How did you do that?
How did you do that? Well, it's called being stupid. That's what it is. But now, that said, do I believe that President Trump, that they will actually put a former U.S. president in prison? Well, that's the question, right? For me, I'm going to take the cautious approach and say, I'll believe it when I see it. This has never happened. And look, maybe my skepticism has something to do with, I don't know, the fact that over the last few years, there have been 2 impeachments, multiple investigations, a lot of which didn't amount to anything for Trump himself. However, people around him, he's been described as a black hole, sucking down everyone else around him, and he's pretty much correct. That said, maybe. The reason that I'm always skeptical is, look, Trump is a person that wields considerable influence and power, especially, again, as a former president and current candidate. And generally how the United States works is people in power can crime, and they tend to get away with it. That said, we're in such uncharted waters now. In this case, again, a president being charged with the Espionage Act. I think there's a level of fear in the corridors of power in going forwards with such charges. And since that's the case, they are pushing forward with charges. Either Jack Smith's got a giant set of balls on him and is just totally going for it, right?
Testicles.
Or he's got a hell of a case. I mean, that said, even if there is a conviction, there is still my a question here is, I'm wondering if still he would end up going to prison. And that's the question that I am not capable of answering. Because again, everything in me says this is not how it usually works. And so is Donald Trump going to be the first former U.S. president to actually end up going to prison? I mean, I don't know. Huge question. Huge question. Okay. Now, does that mean I don't think you should go? No, I think you should. If he did this crime that anybody else would get thrown in prison for, absolutely. We should have an equal application of the law. What I'm trying to say is that in the United States, we don't see that. We don't see that equal application. There seems to be two different sets of laws, a two-tier justice system, if you will, but not in the way that Trump describes it. They always target conservative. No, they don't. In the way the United States has traditionally worked, it has always been a two-tier justice system against the poor, specifically poor minorities and vulnerable groups of people versus rich, affluent, mainly white people. So let's be fair. That said, getting back to the fun here, the trolling. She was definitely trolling. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't think the reaction here is, unexpected. I think we do expect that reaction from MAGA, since they seem to be having a little bit of a difficult time as of late. Things are tough in MAGA land. I'm just saying. That said, I do have one word of warning. As entertaining as this is to watch, and obviously how brave this journalist is, Sophie Alexander, I just got to be cautioned. You got to be careful. Maybe she, since she's a BBC reporter, might not know how armed America is, especially on the right, and how some of them are pretty dangerous people. You'll get the weirdos like Jacob Chansley's, I'm protecting the muffins. And then the pighead guy, weird, but ultimately, in my mind, fairly harmless. But then you get the dangerous people, the unhinged people who are possibly violent and very likely armed. So again, just be careful is all I'm trying to say. Okay. Moving on. I'm still waiting for a substantive defense of Trump for the entertainment purposes of it. Still haven't heard it. Well, it doesn't seem to be one. If you think MAGA's pissed at that Brit, wait till you hear of what they now think of Garth Brooks. Yeah. You know what? Garth Brooks being based. Mainly because he's like, what? I'm not going to bow to the pressure of, right-wingers not wanting me to sell Bud Light in my bar. Okay, anyway. I thought that's a pretty good, that's the way you're supposed to handle it. All right. Moving on, let's go to Fox News and what they think about Biden. Huh?
She was never president. She didn't have the powers to declassify. Thank you. Thank you. She didn't have the powers to declassify. It's a big...
Yes, what you saw on the screen was not edited. That was Fox News showing a chyron alleging that Biden is a wannabe dictator. Fox News having a completely normal one. Now, again, this was according to one of the largest cable news networks in the country, calling Biden a wannabe dictator trying to jail his political opponent. I also should remind you, though, that this very network had to pay a massive settlement for lying to their audience. Yeah. So now you can see that they were airing dueling speeches in the same day after Trump was arraigned on 37 counts connected to the alleged mishandling of numerous classified documents, defense documents, specifically nuclear capability documents, all that stuff, national security. Take it very seriously. So as far as the chyron goes, I love how it's just right out in the open. Okay? I mean...
Oh my God! He admitted!
Fox ripping the hood right off. With their projection. And that's what it is. It's massive projection. Remember, Donald Trump wanted Hillary Clinton to be put in prison. There was that whole chant in 2016 about lock her up. And by the way, the most ironic thing about this entire situation, which was completely created by Donald Trump, refusing to return documents that he was not legally allowed to possess and did not declassify, which he could have. And he decided, no, I'm just going to skip that step and not do it. Yeah, well done. During his presidency, he made one of the charges that he's facing, illegally retaining classified documents, a felony. And he did so in the hopes of getting Hillary. Yeah. And not only that, but he had called the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, and tried to get him to announce an investigation into Joe Biden during the 2020 campaign. And Fox News literally has the audacity to put up a chyron that says, no, it's Biden that's the real dictator, wanting to put his rival in prison. What? Okay, look, the gaslighting here is nothing short of absolutely amazing, coupled with the projection. Again, right now, the Republican Party is doing what is essentially a sham investigation into alleged Biden bribery scheme, calling the Biden crime family. Oh, you've Biden taking $5 million from foreign sources. Only $5 million? Wow, that's not, that wouldn't be worth it. And again, this is based on allegations from so-called FBI whistleblower with no real evidence to back it up. Nothing. And of course, they're going insane over the laptop. But as for the Trump investigations, understand that the FBI had to get a search warrant for Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago because he refused to turn over the documents. That's it. I mean, he took the documents, and for months and months, the National Archives was like, hey, are you sure you sent everything back? We're still missing some stuff. Can you send everything back? Please? And they're like, oh, yeah, no, that's fine. No, yeah, we'll send everything back. Hey, lawyers, why don't you lie to the National Archives and tell them that you've returned everything while I keep everything else? Cool? Cool. Getting his lawyers to lie. Yeah, that's criminal behavior. That seems like obstruction of justice here. Obstruction of, being able to return these documents. Again, which, if he had done so, wouldn't be an issue. Because we already had two former vice presidents, one now president, that, yes, had possession of classified documents. And when they realized, they're like, oh, crap, we got to return these things. And that's literally all you had to do. Stupid. I know. All right, but again, this investigation, along with the investigation into what happened on January 6th, all of these things started before Trump announced his campaign. So I think that's pretty important, right? He wants to put his rival in prison. Yes, and all political, right? This is before he started his campaign. Now, of course, you could probably argue, well, Trump, I mean, everybody should have known Donald Trump was going to run for another term. And so, checkpoint libs. Look, here's the thing. Biden isn't overseeing any of these investigations. It's not like he's got a hand in this, okay? This is the FBI, who, again, had a appointee, Christopher Wray, that was appointed to that position by Donald Trump and the Department of Justice. And so the president is not supposed to interfere in stuff like this. And so far, there's no evidence that he has interfered in this. And so with all of that, I just want to get into what I call Schrodinger's Biden. Because that's what this is. The right wing, it calls, Biden old, weak, frail, sleepy Joe, in cognitive decline, dementia-ridden, and then at the same time, also refer to him as a strongman, wannabe dictator, authoritarian, communist, radical, existential threat to average Republicans, is going to throw every single normal Republican voter into jail, into prison, because he's such an authoritarian strongman. Which one is it? Which one is it? You can't really have it both ways on this. Okay? Apparently, whichever one, they want to, label they want to use against Biden just depends on the time. That's really it. Look, apparently, though, one person at Fox News was not thinking about this, which is the least surprising thing ever, in calling him a wannabe dictator, because they got in trouble for it. Following the backlash, a spokesperson for Fox News told the New York Times that the Chiron was taken down immediately and was addressed. But again, there was no real details on what they did. According to the Washington Post, the graphics are written by each individual show rather than a central network newsroom and provide wide latitude for color and attitude. Ah, yes. Color and attitude. That's what that is. Largest news, organization in the country, basically calling the president a wannabe dictator. Right. Okay. Yeah. But that's his color. That's his attitude. And the Post also noted that the wannabe dictator graphic was in line with other chyrons during that evening's program. Earlier, viewers saw a graphic previewing the Trump speech with "Soon Donald Trump speaks after being targeted by Biden's Department of Justice." Targeted. That's because he did crime. Yeah, generally, we would want someone who does crime, or alleged crime, in this case, because it hasn't been, adjudicated in court yet. You would want them to be targeted by law enforcement to, figure out if they indeed had done crime, and if that is the case, to be punished for said crime. So, again, it mentioned that, it was addressed. How was it? I'm guessing probably a high five. Because we know that Fox News, especially following the Dominion settlement and all that, we know that they're trying to get the base back. Some of them, went to, I should say a lot of them probably went to Newsmax, Steve Bannon Show, Rumble, all these different places, because I think Fox News has sold out and, they have become the establishment rhinos. Well, that's probably why Fox News brought back that Chiron. Like, hey, Trump supporters, come back. He's leading in the polls, and our dude DeSantis is not doing very well. So, oh no. Look, this is...
Oh no!
That just tells me that, if Donald Trump, because he still plans on, if being convicted, continuing his run for president, and right-wingers will probably vote for him. And so Fox News is inevitably going to kiss the ring again. You know they are going to, and this is a good example of how. They don't care about a former president breaking the law. As long as that former president, and maybe president again, is on their side. All right, let's move on. Yeah, kiss the ring. Should have, yeah, it should have, it could have been something far more explicit, but I decided not to go there. I didn't go there today. Funny, you can't vote if you're a felon, but you can run for president. Once again, different rules for people who are powerful. Perfect example of it. Okay.
Be happy to have our staff educate your staff on the work.
I don't want my staff educated.
That was Marjorie Taylor Greene, basically admitting she wants her staff stupid. Hey, she likes the poorly educated. So now this was during a hearing with outgoing CDC Director Rochelle Walensky. And during that exchange, she had offered to clarify what the VAERS system actually does, which Marjorie Greene had tried to use as a way to go after the CDC and vaccines. So now VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and it's a system where people will self-report if anything, bad happens to them following a vaccine. So you get a vaccine, and there's a heart attack. You have a heart attack 6 months down the road. You have a stroke. You have an aneurysm. You fall off a mountain. You get abducted by aliens and don't come back. Or, you fall into a black hole. Godzilla attacks your town and crushes your apartment. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens to you after a vaccine, you can report it to VAERS. That's it. Now, VAERS, you could say that based on that, well, VAERS doesn't mean anything, but it does. And so what it basically is used for is it's a reporting tool that experts can then comb through, right? And to see that maybe if there's a little bit of correlation here between some vaccines or between vaccines and some adverse effects. Okay. And if they happen to see that there's maybe a little bit of a trend here, they can go and they can say, okay, we need to look into this more. We need to commission a study. We need to look into these, this possible. So we're going to see if there's causation here. And that's really it. Now, the right wing, however, thinks theirs is 100% gospel truth and shows, people are reporting all of this stuff. Again, you can report anything. It's completely self-reported. But no, Marjorie Greene says it's gospel and proves that the vaccine is deadly. And so she uses the VAERS reporting system to push some anti-vax nonsense. Take a look.
And in 2021, COVID-19 reports skyrocketed to number one at 728,829 reports. Second was the zoster shingles vaccine at just over 14,000. That's a massive number. And the numbers kept growing and growing and growing on the VAERS report. I'd also like to talk to you on behalf of all the pregnant women, not people, as you call them. To quote you on August 11th, 2021, CDC encourages all pregnant people, it's women, by the way, who are thinking about becoming pregnant and those breastfeeding to get vaccinated to protect themselves from COVID-19. This has also been ignored. The amount of miscarriages and stillbirths that increased drastically due to your advice to get vaccinated. Pregnant women again, not people. And then we could go on and on about the tragic stories of myocarditis and many other things.
Okay, so Look, obvious transphobia is obvious, all right? So immediately out of the gate, it's not people, it's women. Wait, are you saying women then are not people? Because I'm pretty sure they are. Women are people, and people can get pregnant, and women can get pregnant. Yes, I know. Both things can be true. But apparently she does not believe women are people or something. I don't know. She believes a lot of insane things. But again, getting back to what she was talking about, again, there's the self-reporting. So now myocarditis, which is the inflammation of the heart. Now, look, it's been reported that, yes, it can be a complication of the COVID vaccine in middle-aged adult men. Now, that said, it's far more likely that you can get myocarditis from having COVID-19. And in fact, the rates of getting myocarditis and having those issues is higher from getting COVID than you are from getting it from the vaccine. Do you understand? So it's actually better for you to get vaccinated than to get COVID-19. So, and that makes sense. That's reality. Okay, so now, she also brings up stillbirths. Stillbirths. Oh, got him. Now, there was an increase in stillbirths. This is true. It's been recorded. Now, that happened to occur in patients who tested positive for COVID-19, not those who got the vaccine. According to a meta-analysis of 111 studies, which included more than 42,000 pregnant women, pregnant people, whichever you prefer, found that COVID-19 significantly increased the risk of premature delivery, preeclampsia, neonatal death, maternal death, and stillbirth. Now, they also found, the risk of stillbirth among those with COVID-19 was nearly 2.4 times higher than for women without COVID-19. So basically, don't get COVID-19 if you get. Now, 16 studies had looked at COVID vaccination safety with respect to stillbirth. So this is the number that she's getting wildly incorrect. It found that none of those studies found an increased risk of stillbirth following the COVID-19 vaccine. So basically, there's a reason for that. It reduces the amount of stillbirths by protecting both mother and fetus against severe COVID-19 infection. That's the whole point. The whole point of a vaccine is to reduce the amount of severe reaction when you get infected with COVID-19. That's it. Yeah, severe reaction, severe illness, hospitalization, death. Getting vaccinated reduces the likelihood of those things happening. Now, there is one part of this that I didn't show you, where Greene actually might have been close to a good point. So in the middle of that thing, she decides to go after the profits of Pfizer and Moderna. That's interesting, actually. Because, yes, Pfizer and Moderna actually did receive a lot of taxpayer money to develop these vaccines. So now Greene had asked Walensky, who leaves her post at the end of the month, if she planned to join the board of either company because, quote, you've done one hell of a job at making sure that they've made a lot of money. But wait a minute, that's not the CDC. The CDC did not actually do that. Who did that? Who actually gave a ton of taxpayer money to Pfizer and Moderna? Oh, that was Donald Trump. Yeah. Right. Now, that was because of Operation Warp Speed that the Trump administration had authorized that gave a lot of money to these companies to incentivize them to create a vaccine. Instead of course, what they actually normally make their money off of, which is, again, high-end cancer drugs and things like that. And we're going to get to that later in another segment. But, hey, they got all this money from the federal government, from the taxpayer. And so, hey, create a vaccine. This is a health emergency. We got to do something about this. And so they did. And then the federal government then turned around and bought the vaccine that they had paid for to develop. So this is where you can actually get into a good point about, hey, the business model of Big Pharma really is screwing over the taxpayer right now. Again, double charging us effectively on drugs that we helped pay for to develop. That, by the way, work, they're effective, they're safe. But the problem with Big Pharma is the business model, is the fact that they're for-profit corporations that will, unfortunately, use those life-saving drugs, mark them up by a massive amount in order to reward themselves, their shareholders, and their executives with massive compensation packages. That's the issue here. Now, Marjorie Greene could have actually come to that point and said, whoa, we've got to really rein in pharma greed. This is really, really bad. This is harming so many people. This is, so much taxpayer money. The taxpayers are getting fleeced, double charged. And now, we have Pfizer coming out and saying, oh, we're going to, charge money now for the vaccine. $100 plus a dose. Why don't you do something about that? But they don't. And so, look, she missed the point on purpose, I think, about pharma profiteering from these life-saving drugs. And she went straight into VAERS conspiracy theories, which, again, not a surprise. This is what she does. Look, if you want to go after Pfizer, you don't need a conspiracy to do it. I just told you all these things. It's all in the campaign contributions. This is how they're allowed to do these things. They give money to politicians in the form of campaign contributions, and those politicians will basically allow them to price gouge both Medicare and insurance companies and average taxpayers. That's it. They charge them whatever they want for medications that they need to survive. And again, they do this partly through patent trolling. They sit there and they get hundreds of patents for these drugs, and they make it so that there's no competition in the market. So, look, Marjorie Greene, if you claim to be like a free market conservative, why don't you talk about that? You could easily bring up the fact that, hey, these companies, they make it so there's no competition in the market, so that the drugs that they create through taxpayer funding, they're inaccessible for so many people, for all the people who need it. We need to stop this profiteering. And instead, she goes, derp, vaccine bad, because that's who she is.
Peachtree dish.
This is not hard. But look, again, Marjorie Greene doesn't care about any of this. What she's doing is pretty clear. She's pandering to the anti-vax crowd. And it's either because, obviously their anti-vax crowd is easily duped with conspiracy theories. But the other possibility is that she is also a dupe. But a dupe that has, unfortunately, a lot of power. And uses that power to push her alternative realities. I'll leave it up to you to decide which one. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I am going to continue this by going after Big Pharma profiteering. Oh, yes. According to a new report, pharmaceutical companies have basically, been shown to have been ripping off cancer patients with incredibly expensive drugs. Now, this is not something that is unheard of. This is not something that we don't already know. We can see it reflected in the prices. But this new report shows how government stepping in, number one, proves that, again, these companies are price gouging cancer patients on much needed drugs, and the government can actually do something about it. So now, recently, the Biden administration passed something called the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, there are some provisions in there that were, that are helpful towards people or to people who are having difficulty trying to afford certain high-priced medications. So now, according to a report published Wednesday by Patients for Affordable Drugs, cancer patients will be able to benefit substantially from the IRA's $2,000 cap on annual out-of-pocket medicine spending for Medicare Part D in 2025. So, look, one of the reasons that I have an issue with the IRA is not the fact that some of the provisions help people. No, I'm all for that. It's that it takes effect so late. 2025 for this, it's 2023, so cancer patients can be ripped off for 2 more years. And not only that, but I think it's 2026 is when Medicare will actually be able to negotiate the prices of 10 prescription drugs. So there's a lot of work here that needs to be done. This could be a lot stronger. It really isn't. That said, is it going to help people? Yes. In fact, of the nearly 62,000 people on traditional Medicare who receive brand name cancer drugs through Medicare Part D, 99% will see savings from the out-of-pocket spending cap. Well, that's great. Now, on average, the population will also see savings of more than $7,500 once that spending cap is in place in 2025. Some will see savings of over $19,000 by that same year. So that's great. Now, the thing is that this report also, while showing, hey, look at all these wonderful savings people are going to have, that also points out that, wait a minute, that's how badly people were getting screwed. Between 2017 and 2021, according to a recent investigation by Representative Katie Porter's office, the average initial price of a new Part D cancer drug rose by more than 25% to over $235,000 annually when adjusted for inflation. Pharmaceutical companies then raise prices on these drugs year after year. So, David Mitchell, founder of Patients for Affordable Drugs, and a blood cancer patient whose medications come with a list price of more than $900,000 a year, said in a statement on Wednesday that cancer patients, the majority of whom are on Medicare, face annual out-of-pocket costs of more than $16,500. It's a lot of money. People cannot afford this. Now, the historic IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, includes policies that will bring needed relief to millions of patients, especially older Americans with cancer. Said Mitchell, we've been waiting for this relief for far too long. Now, look, as I mentioned before, it could have been stronger. It should have been stronger. But thanks to lobbying efforts from the pharmaceutical industry, who are now also pushing back against this, it doesn't go far enough. And that's why. And that's why. Now, that said, what little is in there, yes, it will help people, and I'm all for helping people. That said, it's really, really bad for cancer patients out there. Not only do they have to deal with cancer, but they have to deal with price gouging pharmaceutical companies. Again, this is where they make the majority of their money. It is not on vaccines. Okay, vaccines, again, are incredibly cheap to make. The federal government tends to fund most of the R&D on these vaccines. It's generally medications like this. For example, Ibrance, which is a breast cancer medication. According to the report, Pfizer has hiked the price of it every year since it came to market in 2015. Today, the list price is more than $15,000 per bottle, according to this report. Celgene BMS has almost tripled the price of Revlimid, a drug to treat multiple myeloma, since it came to market in 2006. Despite being on the market for more than 15 years, the drug remains one of the best-selling products in the world. Much of these sales are paid for by taxpayers, with Medicare Part D spending $5.8 billion on the drug in 2021 for 45,601 beneficiaries. Jackie Trapp, a multiple myeloma patient in Wisconsin, told Patients for Affordable Drugs that Revlimid costs her $20,000 each year on Medicare. Quote, to afford it, I have fundraised, searched for grants, sold furniture, and my husband's truck, and have zeroed out our savings. The price of Revlimid has had real impacts on my husband and my quality of life. It is already unfair that I am likely to leave my husband all alone sooner than I would like, but now I fear of leaving him bankrupt as well. So this is what's going on. And she's just one of many people who have to go through something similar. A recent American Cancer Society Action Network survey of 1,218 cancer patients and survivors found that more than 70% of respondents said they made significant lifestyle changes in order to afford care, including delaying major purchases, 36%, depleting most or all their savings, 28%, going into more credit card debt, 28%, and borrowing money from relatives and friends, 20%. That's the reality that are facing Americans every single day in this country, thanks to pharmaceutical profiteering. And yet, these, on the other side, you have pharmaceutical companies that are suing because of these very incredibly mild, modest, tiny reforms in the IRA. Merck, whose cancer drug Keytruda, which carries an annual list price of $175,000, sued the Biden administration last week to block the Medicare price negotiation provision within the IRA. Keytruda and Revlimid, according to Patients for Affordable Drugs, say that they're in the top 10 drugs for U.S. sales in 2021, and that their manufacturers have applied for more than 180 patents on each of them. Quote, research shows that when drug corporations amass dozens of patents, competition from lower-priced generics and biosimilars is delayed, leaving patients and taxpayers footing the bill for billions in unjust profits, according to the group. Now, they added that, fortunately, there are bills in the 118th Congress that crack down on abuse of the patent and regulatory system. If these bills become law, they will enable more affordable drugs to come to market more quickly, providing relief for patients struggling to pay for overpriced medications. Now, the problem is, and by the way, I love that there are bills that get introduced, but let's be honest, I don't think they're going anywhere. Look, with so much lobbying going on in Congress, I don't see these bills making it past the Senate, much less the Republican House. Because you have people that on both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, that are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. I think the largest, group that donates to politicians. And we see why. We see the effect. And so you have people that are owned essentially by these giant corporations, multinational pharmaceutical companies, that are not interested in solving this problem. Because to them, it's not a problem. The status quo right now is amazing for them. While reports like this just reinforce how bad it is for the rest of us. You know, the 99%. Of course, things need to change drastically. It's a crisis. But unfortunately, until we get big money, corporate money, out of politics, nothing will fundamentally change. It's a sad truth. Okay. But wait, there's more. I promise the last story is going to be a little uplifting. Fox host Jesse Waters recently justified cruelty towards the unhoused because he says they have failed in life. Take a look.
Homelessness isn't about lack of affordable housing. It's about drug addicts that want to wander around and live in tents on the sidewalk. And so you can't coddle antisocial behavior. You can't subsidize antisocial behavior. You have to stigmatize it. You can't celebrate people with purple hair, with nose rings, 4 kids with 4 different men who are dressed like trash and make them out to be some sort of cutting-edge heroes. You have to call them what they are. These are people that have failed in life and they're on their deathbed. And if we're not honest about it, we're never going to fix this problem.
So, Jesse Waters saying, we have to stigmatize homelessness as if, the unhoused do not have it bad enough. They don't have a place to live. No, he thinks we got to make it worse, because we got to punish them for being poor. They're not human beings. It doesn't matter. They have failed in life, and so they deserve nothing but your scorn and hatred. That's who they are. That's what he's saying. This is absolutely sociopathic, and it's also wrong, by the way. So let's get to the charges there first, right? Oh, they're drug addicts. They have failed in life. No, that's not reality. In fact, the National Coalition for the Homeless estimates that more than 40 to 60% of people experiencing homelessness nationwide have a job, and sometimes even more than one job. So how have they failed at life when they are working and they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, but are priced out of being able to afford a place to live? Because that's the reality, okay? So these jobs do not pay enough. For example, in Clark County, Washington, just picking that out, right? In order to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, it takes on average about $1,200 to $1,300 a month. Again, this is a 1-bedroom apartment, okay? If you are making, remember, the national federal minimum wage is $7.25. If you were making in Clark County $13 an hour, $13.50 specifically, right? How much would you have to work to be able to afford this apartment? 70 plus hours a week. Full-time plus full-time. You would, again, work at least 73 to 74 hours a week at your job. In order to afford a 1-bedroom apartment, again, this is on a single income, okay, you would have to, at fair market value, make $28, at least $28 an hour. Full-time job. I don't see a lot of people, I don't see a lot of jobs paying $28 an hour. No, I see 15, I see 16, I see 13, still see 10. And again, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. So that's just one place. So Jesse Waters is absolutely wrong when he says, oh, it's not about a lack of affordable housing. No, that actually is. No, it's over 70% of people who are unhoused right now can't afford living in an apartment. They can't afford a house. They can't afford an apartment. It's because they don't make enough money, even though they work. You have lack of affordable housing. You have low wages. You have gentrification. Those are huge problems. And actually, it's the biggest problem. In fact, according to surveys, about a third of the chronically unhoused. Sorry, let's get to the next one, right? So we also have the issue of addiction, right? Okay. So now, a third of the chronically unhoused have addiction issues, and a quarter of them have mental health issues. The vast majority of people just can't afford it. Whereas, again, you do have a small chunk of people who do have addiction, okay, and that do have an even smaller amount that do have mental health problems. According to a University of California, Irvine, let's go even further, right? Like, I feel like I'm just kind of rushing through all of this. Let's look at the demographics, right? So now, one of the big demographics here of people who are unhoused is single women with children. Now, why are single women and children specifically facing more homelessness? According to a University of California Irvine cost study, they found the top causes of homelessness for women were job loss, lack of affordable housing, and the second cause is domestic violence. So it's important to note that because, again, she just casually throws in misogyny when he says, oh, you can't celebrate people with purple hair and nose rings with 4 kids with 4 different men who are dressed like trash. Specifically going after young single women. Again, casual misogyny right there. Does Jesse Waters also know that about 1 in 10 homeless people are veterans? What does he say to that? Does he not care about veterans too? Of course not. Veterans are only brought up on the right when they can use them as a prop, a political prop. Look, at the end of the day, it is not a character flaw to find yourself homeless. Oftentimes people, by the way, who face homelessness or face, issues of, losing their job, losing their savings, getting sick, losing their savings, some will turn to drugs and alcohol as a result of, again, finding themselves in despair, homelessness. That is not a character flaw. That is a normal human reaction to facing horrifying circumstances. These people need help and compassion to get themselves back on their feet, not scorn, not hatred, as what Jesse Waters is advocating for. This is not a personal failure on the part of these people. This is a systemic failure. That's it. That's it. They've not failed in life. You have failed in life when you sit there and you actually actively encourage people who are lower than you on the economic ladder to attack the most vulnerable. You have failed, Jesse Waters, as a human being, as an actual person. Yeah, you're rich. You got your Fox contract. You got your show. You got all that stuff. But you have failed as a human being. You have failed to have any sort of empathy and humanity. You are a husk. You are a husk in an empty suit filled with money. That's all he is. A very weak and impotent man who takes out his own insecurities on people who are vulnerable. Again, the people who want to blame the unhoused for being unhoused, for being poor, don't want to fix that system. He talked about, I want to fix the system. We have to acknowledge what the problem is. No, you don't, because you don't want to fix the system. The system works just fine for you. It always has. They like that they can look down from their ivory towers. You want to talk about the elites? Jesse Waters is one of the elites, sitting in this high Fox News newsroom ivory tower, punching down at the most vulnerable among us for problems that the rich, the people sitting in those very ivory towers, are perpetuating. They are not solving homelessness. They don't care about homelessness. And it's not, look, it's worse than him just blaming them now. Again, he's now also telling people, his viewers, that you have to go out and you have to make people's lives harder who are already facing extraordinarily bad circumstances. This is absolutely sickening. Jesse Waters is an absolute irredeemable ghoul. Excuse me. Okay. I promised I'd lighten it up. Even though I am out of time, I'm gonna honor my promise. How about that? Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has done something incredibly based. He has just signed the first anti-book ban in the country. So on Monday, earlier this week, Pritzker approved HB 2789. So basically, this bill would penalize libraries if they remove books based on somebody's personal or partisan disapproval, which is essentially the opposite of what a lot of red states have actually done. Under the new law, which takes effect in January, libraries must adopt something called the American Library Association's Bill of Rights. So again, that makes it so that if one person complains, hey, I don't like this book, well, and that doesn't mean that we have to remove it just because you don't like it. And that's basically codified. And that's great. Now, the law also states that the state library can create its own statement against book banning if it chooses to do so. Now, look, this is in response, by the way, to a lot of Republican states, a lot of red states that are going forward with book bans, but also the ALA also reported that there were 67 attempts to ban books in Illinois in 2022. So they were trying there. Now, thankfully, under this law, they can't do that anymore. That will no longer happen. Pritzker, in a statement, said, quote, "Here in Illinois, we don't hide from the truth. We embrace it. Young people shouldn't be kept from learning about the realities of our world. I want them to become critical thinkers, exposed to ideas they disagree with, proud of what our nation has overcome, and thoughtful about what comes next." Again, based. Quote, "Everyone deserves to see themselves reflected in the books that they read. The art they see, the history they learn. In Illinois, we are showing the nation what it really looks like to stand up for liberty." Again, I cannot love this more. I think this is fantastic. Base as hell. And I applaud Illinois and Governor Pritzker for passing this. Again, this is the first in the nation where you're like, oh, you're going to ban books? I ban you from banning books. How about that? The books stay. Now, look, again, the books that they generally tend to go after are ones that are based on LGBTQ+, anything that has to do with that, and anything that has to do with, for example, racism, critical race theory, or, again, even critical thinking. They're not in favor of, the right wing is, and that's why they're trying to ban these books. So now the legislation was proposed by Secretary of State and State Librarian Alexei Giannoulis, who also put out this statement, quote, "I initiated this legislation to stand up and fight for libraries, librarians, and the freedom of speech, and against censorship," by the way. I thought that was a conservative value that they purported to believe in. We're against censorship. Sure. But this is actually being against censorship. She said, "Especially at this perilous time for our democracy, the concept of banning books contradicts the very essence of what our country stands for. It also defies what education is all about, teaching our children to think for themselves. This landmark legislation is a triumph for our democracy and a win for First Amendment rights and a great victory for future generations." 100%. Pritzker also pointed out the hypocrisy of conservatives who claim banning books is just a way to keep kids safe. So I like that he's challenging this. Quote, "The effort is not really to protect children like they say. The effort is to marginalize people, to make them feel unwanted and unaccepted in their communities. So we wanted to fight back and make sure no one is left out and that their histories are on the shelves." He also defended librarians and said, "Communities hire the librarians in their libraries. They're experts at this. All we're really saying is the libraries need to adopt a standard. There has to be some kind of standard that they're living by." Yeah, and I think we all agree. Okay? They're experts in their field. They know what is and is not age appropriate. And so let them make the decisions. Don't let some weirdo right-wing bureaucrat who watched Matt Walsh's video, make this decisions. And by the way, a lot of these people don't even read the books that they're against. They just hear it from someone else and think, "Oh no, I must protect the children." when you're not protecting children at all. In fact, a lot of the children who read some of these, again, LGBTQI plus books realize that, either they have always been LGBTQ plus themselves, or they happen to empathize with people who are in the LGBTQ community and think, oh, wow, this is the stuff that they go through. Maybe we ought to be nicer to them. Maybe we ought to have some empathy for other human beings. And ultimately, again, Pritzker is correct when he says this is to marginalize people. This is to other people. This is so that children are not taught to foster empathy or to have any empathy towards these marginalized communities. Because for them, empathy is a bad thing. And, well, when you're not on the side of empathizing with people who are marginalized, then you might be the baddies. Okay. All right. So, that's it. Empathy. Interesting concept. Kind of dig it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, that is the good story of the day. We don't get a lot of them. So, there it is. Good news is rare. But, hey, wonderful that we have one time. All right, so let's see. I got laid off of a workplace for being too empathetic. That's ridiculous and weird. And I'm sorry to hear that. That is quite terrible. Yeah. All right, let's read some super chats here. Six Dragon Charon says, I got hit by a car after my vaccine. I also got laid. Only one was relevant to the vaccination. Interesting. Arou. Oh, sorry. Let me just add.
Sexual anarchy.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Coro gifted a Waldorf Nation membership. Thank you. Mark Davis says, did MTD get her 3 toes from the vaccines or the chemicals DuPont put in the drinking water in her district? I do not know what the 3-toe thing is about. I might have to look into that. Boulder Crypto Sissy Dragon says, my therapist says I overshare. I disagree. Fun. All right. So, let's go here to Twitch. Jam Tomb, yesterday I forgot to give you a shout out there. Thank you for rating with a party of 6. So everybody go follow Jammed Tomb. And thank you for that rating party. Appreciate that. Let's see. All right. Don't look at the toes. I don't plan on it. I don't plan on it. Okay, so I'm going to sign off for the day. Speaking of raiding or speaking of Twitch, let's raid into, we'll do a TYT raid here. Everyone else, thank you. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all back here tomorrow.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.